All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to our last session. I'm with Josh from Nugg Lyf and Appliquette, and we are having some product placement beverages. Those of you who don't know Nugg Lyf, they are, what would you say, Josh? Adelaide's premier chicken nug enthusiasts restaurant?
We always like to joke that we're Adelaide's realest nugs.
Realist Nugs.
Yeah.
They are based at Brew Boys Brewery in Regency Park, but also you've got Morphett Vale now,
Yeah.
and you're popping up everywhere.
Yeah, we've got a food truck as well, so we've been sending that out to Golden Grove every week as well.
Yeah. So I thought we might just start by, Nugg Lyf is one of those things that started almost like a virtual outlet.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I kind of saw where I thought food was trending, which is we're starting to get into more niche environments. Obviously, takeaway delivery service is becoming a big thing. My family was in pubs for a long time, so I know quite a few pubs around Adelaide and had an idea of looking at a pub and seeing how they could better utilise their kitchen to do virtual kitchens essentially, because pubs have got quite a range of equipment. They pretty much cook anything, but aren't really the type of product that does well on Uber Eats. So we launched our first Nugg Lyf just out of the Maid of Auckland, just through Uber Eats. Called it a virtual chicken nugget kitchen. Had quite a bit of press around it, which was good. Went really well, and I think what we realised was that there was actually quite a market for fried chicken in Adelaide. I always joke like we've had our wanky burgers for a little while now, but there wasn't really anything like that for fried chicken. It was pretty much KFC or pub wings, that type of thing. So yeah, we found our little niche and have slowly grown, and now we do wanky burgers as well. But yeah, it's good.
And then I think it was last year that you joined forces with Brew Boys and you opened a in-person restaurant.
Yeah, we actually had a little takeaway shop in Kilkenny. That was our first kind of bit of a production kitchen slash we cooked out of there mainly on Uber Eats. But then we got our food truck, which we couldn't store on the at our old takeaway shop. So we started to look at different options, and we kind of thought fried chicken and beer goes pretty well together. I didn't actually know the Brew Boys, but I'd been in there and they weren't too far from where our old shop was. So we started chatting with them and just said, look, not sure if you've by chance want to have a kitchen built into your brewery, but if you do, we think this could be a good little fit for us. And they were like, well, funnily enough, we were hoping to build a kitchen. So that worked out pretty well. And yeah, obviously we've kind of kept trying different things from there, but yeah, it's been a bit of different ride than most hospi, I'd say, but good.
So in 2019, opening a kitchen in a brewery sounds like the best idea ever to me.
Yeah.
And then we get to February, March this year and venues are shutting and it's not such a good idea anymore.
Yeah, I think a big part of our change as well was we obviously we had two food trucks, so we were very event based, which is probably what dropped off and fell away the quickest. I still remember like the Friday that kind of restrictions started to kick in. It was the end of Fringe. We had a Fringe event at the Port the next day, and it was like 9 a.m. We got an email saying, don't stress, this event's going to happen. And then 1 p.m, it's okay, we're still going to go ahead. And then 4 p.m, the event's cancelled. So the brewery was kind of secondary a little bit to that. We kind of figured that we would be able to still do takeaway trade. And, I think if truth is told, it probably had a bigger impact on the brewery or the Brew Boys themselves than us from a trade standpoint, because we always have had a pretty solid Uber Eats kind of takeaway product. But what we noticed was the food truck, we had to really pivot, and that's probably changed back again, I guess.
So I remember getting a phone call from one of the boys, Owen. We were nearing the end of their website build, but we weren't quite there. And hey, so we got a shut tomorrow. You know how we nearly finished this website and we're going to be able to sell beer on the internet? You know, can we do it tomorrow? And so I remember we basically tried to move whatever we could around so that we could get some form of online ordering done as quickly as possible. But when you're talking about shipping canned product in cartons, you know, people get thirsty, but it doesn't have to be done immediately. Now, you obviously already had a big Uber Eats business, but that's substantially less profitable than your food trucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we obviously, so we saw kind of the writing on the wall pretty quickly in terms of the shift from in-house dining experience and takeaway in general. You know, we, with the Brew Boys Kitchen, hadn't had a lot of, you know, I guess your classic pizza takeaway shop. They're kind of used to having their customer base have phone orders, call-in orders, get them delivered. So we didn't really have that model in place initially. But I guess, so as well as running Nugg Lyf, I also work with Applicate, which is a local app development agency. And we had the benefit, I guess, of having access to an app development team. So over that kind of first weekend, we went to ourselves, all right, what if we build an app that works for Nugg Lyf and just allows us to be able to do deliveries and have customers be able to pick up directly. Obviously, I had a fair few staff, so I wanted to try and keep them working as much as possible and figured that I could be a delivery driver, as is the way when you run your own business, you kind of fill the gap that's there. But after a couple of days, we spoke to, obviously, hospitality, and I've run events and stuff, so I got a few contacts in the industry. And there's a lot of hospo businesses that didn't have access to that tech. It wasn't that much more, well, it wasn't really any more difficult to set up an app that would allow us to be able to not only sell Nugg Lyf product, but also work with other hospitality businesses and list and have them operate through the app as well. So we decided to go down a different path and build an app that was, we called it Your Local. So the idea was that it was a local-based app built for local business. We didn't take any revenue or any cut from the venues, which was just us trying to figure out what hospitality was going to look like and make sure that there was an alternative outside of Uber, because obviously Uber charge a large portion of the revenue fee. So yeah, we had, in about 2 weeks' time, we transitioned to really focusing on pushing this app. We built it pretty quickly. We've got a pretty good team at Applicate, so
Plug.
yeah, plug. But no, they're excellent. The boys worked really hard. I think the other thing is because everything's locally based, our staff are also understanding of how hospitality was impacted. So I know our team actually took a lot of passion on it and worked outside of hours, so they did fantastic. Built the app, and as soon as we kind of got it out there, by chance, the Brew Boys had organised a catch-up with Peter Malinauskas from the local Labor Party, who saw what we were trying to do and thought it must have tied in quite nicely with what he was trying to do. So from there, we had a Channel Centre interview the next day, and within about 2 weeks, we had about 20,000 downloads and I think 70 venues giving it a go. And yeah, we ran it for a couple of months. Obviously, it was a good alternative option to Uber Eats. We ended up kind of pulling it from the App Store just because I think Adelaide, and obviously we touch wood when we say this, but we've started to come out of the restrictions that forced businesses to shift to just takeaway. And now they've kind of begun to focus on building up that in-house offering again. So it just reached a point where it was no longer a needed product, and the reality is, because it was starting to become a big project, there was a lot of cost and whatnot associated. We decided we'd rather pull it than try to make it another Uber Eats, where we charge a cut and that type of stuff. But we hope it helped a few businesses. It certainly helped Nugg Lyf, and the Brew Boys, I think, sold a few beers through it as well, so they were happy. But yeah, it was just a lucky circumstance. I don't think there's a lot of hospitality business owners that also have their toes in the app development business. They're not really hand product.
we'll come back to that point, because that's definitely one that I can already hear people bashing away at keyboards going, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But I guess the app was one of the most downloaded apps in Adelaide in that time.
In Australia, actually.
In Australia?
Yeah, we cracked all the trendings on iOS and Android, which is pretty impressive.
Huge.
Just being a South Aussie app, so.
But was that enough to offset the losses from the food trucks?
So the food truck was an interesting one, and actually has probably led to us rethinking a few of our business model in general. So we obviously we had all these events booked that disappeared into the ethos, which is what I think everyone in our event industry went through. Tasting Australia was a big event that was coming up, and we weren't involved with that, but there's a lot of local businesses that are, and
we were.
Yeah. So, and then I guess the other thing is, even now, from a food truck standpoint, we're not really getting too excited about events coming into the end of this year. I think we've made the realization that it's probably unlikely anything's going to happen in 2020, and are keeping more our fingers crossed that 2021 stuff starts to change. But the pivot there was that we had staff that obviously wanted to give hours to and make sure that they were looked after, because we are very Uber Eats focused. I guess we've always been a delivery partner based product. That's kind of why I joke around like Nugg Lyf is built for stoners and hungover people eating at home. That was our target demo from the start. So
I eat Nugg Lyf.
But yeah, we thought to ourselves, let's send the food truck to an area. Like we've had a lot of people reach out over time asking for us to pop up in different areas, and Onkaparinga Council allow you to have a food truck permit and set up in certain zones. So there was a little park in Morfett Vale that I looked at what our Uber Eats radius would look like, and it looked pretty promising. So we set the truck up there and just started pumping social media advertising, telling people we were there, and it really took off. So that allowed us to, we then got a shop down that way, which has been busy for the last couple of months. But I think what we've now done is realised that there's a market for sending the food truck to the right location and using social media as a tool to inform people that we're there. And that market, in a weird way, is almost just as profitable, if not more profitable for us than the actual events industry, because even though Uber Eats take a fee, a lot of event vendors take a pretty large fee as well, and events can be quite hit-miss if you're expecting it to be a big event and you have a lot of stock and a lot of staff on, and then for whatever reason, weather or COVID, it doesn't go ahead, you can be at quite a loss, whereas running the food truck, kind of as a rolling Uber kitchen, it's a lot more consistent, so we don't have as much wastage. And it's funny. The app certainly helped. We certainly sold quite a bit of, we certainly did well through the app, and I think it really helped that we were pushing it ourselves as well as a better tool than relying on Uber Eats. And what was actually really like a really good thing was that people understood. I think sometimes when you're in hospitality, it can feel like your customers don't really understand the challenges that you go through, but we would always get positive messages and people using the app because they understood what hospo was going through. So that was really good as well. But it was just the forced change. Sometimes they work in your favour, and in this case it does, and they're not always going to work that way. I know there's plenty of hospitality businesses that haven't had that type of luck, but for us, getting the food truck more as a rolling bricks and mortar has actually been a good thing, and something we would definitely kind of happy it ended up working out that way.
So here's an interesting question for you. Did you shut off Uber Eats around around the brewery when you were doing your local?
We didn't.
You offered both?
We offered both.
Did you find many people were shifting from Uber Eats to your local so that you didn't have to pay the commissions?
It would be hard. Unfortunately, Uber doesn't provide any real data on its customer base, which is deliberate, obviously.
Yeah.
So it'd be hard to know for certain if that was the case. I think what it allowed us to be able to do was market a delivery service that. So I guess from a marketing space on our social medias and marketing spend standpoint, I'm always hesitant to spend a lot of money promoting, Uber Eats. Because they do take quite a large chunk. So to me, I actually look at Uber Eats more as a marketing platform for Nugg Lyf as opposed to just a delivery services tool. Whereas what we started to do was with your local, if we wanted to do social media content, it was always focused around your local. We created, special offers. We worked with the Brew Boys to create a couple of offers that were only available through your local. So it was more. We definitely kept Uber because obviously we're a free app in Adelaide. We're not going to be able to compete with their marketing spend. But at the same stage, what we did is made sure when we did a social media post that we focused just on the Your Local app. And I think that's probably, as I said, I wouldn't be able to tell you if it was a shift. I'm sure there was some people that did shift. But on the flip side, it just meant that we had something that we could push out there to the people to say, look, if you're going to get Nugg Lyf, order in with your local. And I think that's the thing is, as I said, I think we definitely actually had new customers that came to your local that hadn't ordered from Nugg Lyf before, just because it was something different, and obviously we were advertising and spending money to get it out there. So, yeah, it was. But Uber's the great. Everything's hidden and secret with them, so I couldn't tell you, unfortunately.
So obviously, to come back to the previous point, not everyone can just go, hey, we're shutting tomorrow. I'm going to put my entire app development business into building an app to take us offline.
Yeah.
But it sounds like one of the biggest drivers for you was pivoting the food trucks and trying to find a better way of doing business rather than just providing an app.
Yeah, I think obviously being a small business owner and specifically one in a takeaway hospo environment, the biggest thing for me was shifting from working a lot in the kitchen and being more hands-on to needing to kind of give those hours to staff and obviously trying to make sure that the employees were always working, because I'm lucky I've got a great team, so I didn't want to have to lose any of them during COVID. So what it meant was that there was a lot of nights where I was, delivery driver, and obviously if you don't have orders, I was able to kind of spend a bit more time focusing on our social media strategy specifically. I spent, one of the other things is there's nothing to do. So not only as a hospo person running your own business, but it's not like in your spare time you can really go out and do anything. So
I'm just going to go to the pub or have dinner with friends. No.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of just time at the brewery thinking about what we can do to make things work. So one of the things we did was we reshot all of our menu. I spent a fair bit of time just trying to think about what we wanted our social media image to look like, how we wanted to utilize social media. I think we'd always try to build our strategy around the idea of, that small business, you're trying to get people to know who you are type of mentality, when I think what we've shifted to is more using social media for what it is, which is an advertising platform. So when we do a post and when we promote what we do, it's not meant to feel, it's meant to feel like an advert, which might be, for some businesses makes sense, for other businesses that's not going to work. But so we went through all of our menu, we reshot everything, we tried different virtual kitchen concepts, and marketing wise, we started to really spend extra money on boosting our social media page. I think one of the things that I noticed was sending the food truck down to Morphett Vale. because it was kind of a new area for us. We could actually really see if we spent $100 one week, the amount of orders, and then if we spent $300 the next week, it would increase significantly. And obviously there's a little bit of word of mouth there as well, but it was pretty clear there was a clear correlation between what we were spending and what we were getting in terms of business. So it just allowed me to be able to step back that little bit that I think every small business owner really struggles to do. You want to be involved with everything, but sometimes you got to take a step back and go, okay, what's the bigger picture here? How do I make sure that we're doing everything we can to grow? And that's probably been the learning lesson for me is to make sure that I'm not spending 50 hours in the kitchen, but maybe only 30, and spending that extra 20 working on the socials. And we've got a good strategy in place now built around what we want to do and how we want to present ourselves and where we want to spend our money to make sure that we're getting people to the door.
So was that shift in social strategy and I guess you can say branding, was that driven by COVID, or was it just that COVID gave you the time to do it?
I think it was a case of COVID gave me the time. Like a lot of business owners, I imagine, I've got a big list of stuff that I'd like to get to and get done. And, stuff like Your Local wasn't on that list. That was something that popped up because of COVID. So that was definitely a COVID influence thing. We hadn't really been looking. It's funny, even though we have an app development agency, we hadn't really been looking at an app. I'm still not 100% sure how that works. I think marketplace apps certainly work more effectively, which is why Uber has been so successful, and why brands like McDonald's and HJ's and KFC, even though they've got their own apps, still utilise those platforms. So that was definitely a case of pivoting just because of COVID. But stuff like the rebrand, obviously we've kept the Nugg Lyf and the logo and all the stuff. It's more just rethinking how we wanted to push ourselves out there in the social media world. That had always been in the back of the mind, and it was just that time to, I've got 8 hours today where, we'll probably won't get a heap of orders, but I'll keep the fryers on, and if I've got time, I'll go over and do some photo shoots and stuff, or, I've got the staff on and I'm waiting for an order to come in, so I'll think of how we can, push this, what target demographics we want to really hit. And yeah, it's been good. So that was, on that kind of long list of stuff to do, and COVID allowed me to be able to spend a bit of time on it. So, and that's the thing now, is that now that COVID's done, I'm still trying to make sure that I'm giving myself that time to tick some stuff off that long list, so to speak.
You didn't touch wood when you said COVID's done, mate. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I should have. Yeah, nah, but you know what I mean. Now that we're back to, at least for the short term, business as usual, and we've got a new shop, which is obviously busy. It's still making sure not to get too bogged down in the day to day.
So you mentioned before that you could see a direct correlation between the location that you were targeting with the Facebook ads and the orders through Uber.
Yep.
I'm assuming Uber give you no conversion data.
Uber don't. It wasn't just Uber Eats either. It was just revenue in general. Yep. We could see quite an increase in our revenue. We now as well have kind of figured out a formula for what we're looking for when we target an area. So if we send the food truck, as I said, we're currently sending it to Golden Grove, which is out north and doing quite well. We know what our our target demographic on social media fits a certain criteria and has a kind of a minimum capacity for, if it's 10,000, 15, 20,000 that fit that demographic. We had tried in Maylands beforehand, because we'd had a few people out east inquire about, trying Nugg Lyf and whatnot, and we could just see, just using that social media kind of broad audience data, that Maylands had about half of the demographic we targeted versus Golden Grove. So it's not just helped us in terms of growing the business, but I think it also helps us when we look at, certain locations. We've got a couple of spots out north that we might be eyeing off, that when I look at what our Uber Eats radius would be around that address, and then how many people within that social media demographic suit what we're looking to do, I can see that it's quite a substantial fit versus a place like Maylands, or even, we looked at what Mount Barker would look like, and it's not a lot out that way that would suit. But that's just because different demos, different places. But yeah, so it's kind of helping us, I mean, in a weird way. There's other forms of marketing, and certainly as we grow, we'll have to start to look at other advertising platforms. But for us, that Facebook data, especially for the type of product that we do, which is, I guess that fast food style meal, it's a pretty broad target demo. So it does help. It's not like we're a super niche product where you're never going to find anything substantial on your social media. We can always find a pretty good audience.
So we've had a number of speakers over the last couple of days talking about customers, personas. How, we don't want you to give away all your super secret herbs and spices, but how detailed do you go with those demographics when you're analysing where you put a new restaurant?
We don't go too specific. As I said, we have a pretty broad range of people or pretty broad product range. Most people will eat a burger, and most people enjoy fried chicken, and obviously we've got vegan products as well. So we know that there's other markets that aren't really targeted. I think what we're looking for is, we look at other fast food locations as well. So, not just the big chains, but other kind of slightly smaller groups that might not necessarily fit into our food product range. So they might not necessarily be a burger, but they'll suit the same type of price point, or, it'll be general interest might be something like fried chicken, which is a simple one, but when you're a fried chicken vendor, makes sense. So we kind of take about 4 or 5 different things, combine them into one demographic search, and then obviously set the radius to be what Uber Eats' radius is, and then based on the address, we normally get a good feel for what, like, based on Facebook's, how many people they would have in that demographic. And I guess the good thing is we've got a bit of a baseline now for what we do out of Brew Boys and what that demographic looks like, and what we do out of Morphett Val, and that's a larger demographic, and obviously we do more revenue out of Morphett Val. So it's kind of given us a very rough, and obviously these are all inexact sciences, but a little bit of confidence, and that has kind of been backed up by where we sent the food truck next, which was Maylands, which was more along the Brew Boys line, and then sending it out to Golden Grove, which was similar to Morphett Val, and we've seen the truck revenue accordingly fit that criteria. So yes, that's kind of the other thing is we obviously have a pretty consistent spend on our social media across all of our locations, but we can tell that we're getting a better bang for buck where that demographic has a broader audience for us as well.
Are you taking the interaction data from the campaigns and modifying your personas over time?
Not yet. I guess what we've kind of started. This is it's only been about 3 months of really playing around with this type of stuff. What we're starting to try and do is build a more fleshed out strategy. So one of the things that we want to do is have a burger of the month and a fried chicken product of the month that we can run as a month-long campaign, and see how that compares to running shorter spurt campaigns over, say, a weekend, or once every, like we do a Wing Wednesday, which is starting to build some popularity. So we kind of do a shorter term boost on a Tuesday night through to Wednesday. And then that's going to start to give us a bit more understanding of, what's working. We can start to then do some A/B marketing, playing around with, all right, we've got a month worth of data on how people interact with our Wing Wednesday posts when we target these demos. Let's now shuffle it around and see if we get more specific or go broader, and see how that works. We've tried a few different things with just setting, the demographic as simple as interest being food, which, very, very broad spectrum. And that's worked for some things but hasn't worked for others. I think when we do our kind of product of the month, it actually works a little bit better, but when we're trying to promote a discount night, it's actually not as effective. So it does, we can see some trends, but we've only been mucking around for a couple of months, so we don't want to say it's all gospel just yet.
You're the expert. I guess what are the other key takeaways you've found, particularly with social advertising through COVID?
I mean, obviously we've tried different things. I think one of the key is for me making sure that we've got a social media strategy that offers something new and fresh. So that's why having something, it's, you know, in hospitality, it's quite simple, a burger of the month or a fried chicken option of the month. You know, we do this month a flaming hot Cheeto Nugg, which has been pretty popular.
Okay.
So, you know, we having something that's a little bit different, so that, you know, your existing audience. I guess there's two parts to any marketing. Obviously, targeting people that have never heard of you before, and then targeting people that have heard of you, but you're trying to give them something to come back into. So that's been a good thing in terms of broad spectrum stuff, is just creating something so at least every month we know that we can hit up that same audience again with a new product to hopefully get them interested. And not everyone's going to want a flaming Cheeto Nugg, but they might like what our next kind of fried chicken of the month product is.
I hope everyone's online now ordering their fried Cheeto Nugg.
Yeah.
I can see Rabina on the Uber right now. It's good.
No, I've actually, it's just, you know.
Have we got questions, have we?
I'm just coming around. It's very
That's all right.
informal at this point of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're drinking, beer's all right?
Yeah.
Good. So there are a few places where you should take your van, first of all. Missy's front lawn. Apparently there's a spot in Moana where you should pull up.
Yeah.
And Uncle Prunger, I think it's outside the library. Yeah, so you've got some spots down south
suggestions,
where we'll pass them on to you, and hopefully
okay.
Josh can get down there. I like Missy just said front lawn.
Yeah. And then
That's
she
great.
finds out she's not in the target demo and she can't have a Nugg Lyf van.
And following on, this is another one from Missy. Look, Christy was thinking about Luxa, but she reckons it's probably going to be Nugg Lyf now. So yeah, that's funny.
Fried chicken Luxa.
Yeah, that'd be different.
That's an
maybe,
innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one from Missy. Josh, what are your thoughts on Menulog's Snoop Dogg ads?
I haven't really seen. I'm not a commercial television watcher, so I haven't really seen the Menulog advertising. But yeah, Menulog's probably the one brand that we haven't really tried with delivery services. So if I had to pick one of the delivery services that's certainly been the best, it would probably be Deliveroo to work with. The local rep's been a lot more helpful than some of the other guys, and they don't have we can't get Deliveroo down at Morphett Vale, unfortunately, but certainly out of Brew Boys, they've been really helpful with promotion and stuff, so shout out to Deliveroo.
And then this other one from Jasmine, actually. What's the future look like for True Local?
So your local,
Your local, sorry. Wrong one. That's terrible.
They've shut True Local down, but your local looks rosy.
No, as I said, at this stage we've decided to close your local or take the app off the App Store. Not for any other reason other than, as I said, it got to the point where the app kind of outgrew our capability to be able to run it effectively. So, we feel like it served its purpose for now. Obviously, if things shift again, which hopefully they don't, we might have to revisit it. We haven't, destroyed it. It's just been removed off the App Store. It was starting to get a couple of little bugs, and the cost to develop and time would have started to push it into the point where it would have needed to start to generate some kind of revenue, and we just weren't in a position where we wanted to push venues to have to then start to pay a revenue fee when we've been really pushing the fact that it was revenue free for them. So it's a balancing act with stuff like this, unfortunately.
I think it's great that you could put it out there without charging a fee, but we all know that even if you're involved in an app agency and people can build it, there's still a cost associated with that. Cost associated with running it, and if somebody's not paying at some point, well, it won't last.
Yeah, I mean, in the short time it was up, it generated tens of thousands of dollars in revenue for our venues. So we certainly don't look at it just because it's not running now as a failed project. We actually think it was really successful for what it was. if we don't look at it as an app and look at it more as a marketing tool, which it was essentially. That's kind of why we pushed it as a way of generating interest and business. I think from a marketing campaign standpoint, what we did in 2 months was incredibly successful. So it's more just a case of it was just starting to outgrow what it was capable of doing, but that's a good thing.
It's great result.
So yeah.
While we're waiting for the last questions to come in, something you said before, something that I've been really interested in, completely unrelated to all of this, but I think it's been really interesting as a business owner myself. COVID has been tough for everybody, and you've mentioned a couple of times that it was really important that you keep your staff working. It was really important that you got out of the way and you let them have the hours.
Yeah.
How did you? I guess how was the whole the mind space and the ability to keep the business running like that with all the different pressures that are coming along with that?
Yeah, I think we were in a situation where, like a lot of small business, it's very quickly adapting. I think one of the lucky things that I have as a hospitality business is that most of our costs for our particular hospitality business are variable costs. So we don't have a massive pub that's got a massive lease cost associated with that, and we've always really focused hard on trying to keep those kind of fixed costs to a minimum as much as we could. So there was a little bit of give in terms of, even though the revenue side of things started to dry up, especially with the food truck side of things really quickly, a lot of the costs also associated with that dried up. If you're not paying, an event, some events charge up to 35% on your revenue. So if you're not
Makes Uber look cheap.
well, if you're not paying revenue, if you're not making revenue at those events, you're not paying that fee. And as I said, we were in a situation where, it was, I guess we didn't have to make any tough decisions just because the pivot with the food truck worked. So that was a big relief straight away, was going, okay, I need to keep my food truck staff working. Let's send it down to Morphettvale. And to be fair, that first week it just did enough revenue to cover like the wages, and I was just relieved knowing, thank God we're not running at a loss to keep those guys afloat. We didn't get a heap, we got some of the government subsidies, which was lucky as well. And, JobKeeper's been not a perfect system, but I think it's also helped us stay a little bit afloat and get through that first, I guess. Well, the problem with JobKeeper was that it didn't give us the immediate help to get through that first month, but we were also lucky in that we're not like a small bar where we completely lost all of our revenue day one, so we were able to generate just enough revenue. And I guess like a lot of small business owners, you go through a couple of months where you don't really see a paycheck for yourself, but I'm lucky I've got a partner that's in healthcare, so she was certainly working a lot, which is good. So it's that balancing act and that juggle. I think for me, when I looked at it, I just figured that, obviously, I knew that our particular type of business model wasn't going to be as heavily impacted as other parts of hospitality. I think when we talk about hospitality as a whole, it is very broad, because the way my business operates versus a small bar in the city versus a pub that's got, pokies versus, craft breweries. Each business model falls under hospitality, but they've got a completely different set of costs and circumstances associated with them. So yeah, for me it was just kind of falling into that lucky category of our business model happens to be a very high variable cost business model. So when there's not a lot of revenue coming in, it also means that we're not having these really high fixed costs, and that's why I could kind of take that initial risk. But yeah, it is also luck. If Morphettvale didn't work, if we sent the truck down there and no one was coming in, and we weren't getting any business down that way, I think it's a completely different story, you know. So, yeah, it's like anything in business. It's like 90% luck, I reckon, and then the rest of it's just you making sure to take advantage of that luck.
Yeah, and it's been so good to see some of the cool stories that are coming out of the whole experience. You've pivoted and you've been able to keep the business going. Our local here is the Port Admiral Hotel.
Yeah.
They reopened for Friday lunches a couple of weeks ago. We were in there the first day, and the bar staff were all missed us, and they were all very excited to have us back.
Yeah.
And because you build relationships with these people as well, so it's good. Hopefully, we're at the back of it now, and we can keep moving onwards and upwards, unlike some states who will remain Mexico.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's it. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, and I think, as I said, as much as the Brew Boys Brewery concept is a very much a dine-in experience, and we've bounced back really well. I think that's been another good thing. You know, I think a lot of hospitality businesses would probably say the same. You know, winter's normally the quiet months, but for us, we've really seen people wanting to come back out, and you know, people didn't. I think people have hopefully realised that hospitality is a pretty important part of their enjoyment. It might not be always a part of everyday life, but when they think of good times and the best times they've had, it's normally not at home. So certainly
Having a nug and a beer.
yeah, but it's certainly been Brew Boys has certainly been a good experience, and I think that's it. As I said, we've been in a situation where our business model hasn't been as badly impacted by COVID as others, but at the same stage, it's also been a lot of pivoting and trying a lot of different things. And you know, there's event operators and food truck operators out there, I'm sure, that have really been hit. Like we part of what I do as well is I run a few different food events, and me and my
Of course you do.
yeah
One more thing.
yeah me and my business partner, so we ran the Cluck Air Fried Chicken event. So we are debating whether or not that's even going to happen this year. It's probably not. So
But you did a virtual chicken festival.
we did, because we just thought we'd try something different, as always. But I guess that's the thing, is even though from my standpoint as a food truck operator within the event space, we were able to kind of pivot and try something different. There's a lot of operators in that industry that if they run an event, they can't. There's no money to be made this year. You know, I think tasting's a good example. As you said, you were involved with those guys. They pushed it back, thought they might be able to give it a crack in, I think it was October or September, and now they've realised it's probably off the cards for this year as well.
Yeah.
So this Adelaide Oval, you know, those bigger industry type of places. So there's a lot of hospo places that are starting to crawl out of it, but I think overall the industry is still not going to find its feet probably for another 6 to 12 months.